Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Mount Olympus challenge mode. Of course, with the Aquila update, we got multiple challenge modes that were involved, and one of those was Mount Olympus. Of course, I'll be going over all the other ones eventually on the channel. It's just, I'm taking my own pace when it comes to editing these videos with a lot of things going on IRL. But we're specifically going to be talking about Mount Olympus challenge mode in this video. We'll go over how to do the entire dungeon, some cheats here and there because there's not really two detrimental cheats in this whole entire dungeon, and as well as some strategies that we can talk about. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord. Appreciate everyone that joins the Discord. Any slides I mentioned in this video are all going to be in the Discord eventually once I post all 3 of the dungeons on the channel. Another thing I do want to talk about is whatever strategies I talk about in the video, you don't have to do verbatim. It's just I'm giving you guys examples of what I did. Now, of course, I know some people are going to ask, can I have a fire hitter? Can I have a myth hitter, death hitter, etc.? The whole dungeon by itself is pretty easy. You can just use the 4-pip AoEs in the entire dungeon. You can use Deer Knight. You can use Ship of Fools. You can use, like I said, Meteor. If you want, you can even carry a Blizzard. I don't really care. You can even carry as well as Reindeer Knight. There's so many I can go about. Like, just literally you can just use the 4-pip AoEs and make sure you're using path B, whatever's applicable in challenge mode. But what I'm just going to be going over in the video is specifically going to be tailored towards storms, just because I was on my storm and it's honestly one of the fastest ways to do this entire dungeon. One thing to note regarding this dungeon is you do not have 100% power pips in this dungeon. Whenever you scale down to level 30, your pips are going to be around 50%. or somewhere around there depending on your school. You can't hit 100% power pips in level 30 dungeon, specifically for challenge mode, of course. So that's one thing you have to remember, as well as you can fizzle. Depending on what spells you're using, you can have a chance to fizzle. Now, of course, if I have like tier 5 lightning bats, I'm probably not going to be fizzling my lightning bats because it only requires 20 accuracy, which is very doable on storms. But if, for example, I'm using a spell that has like 70 accuracy or something like that, 75, I have a chance of fizzling that pretty often. So literally what we're doing specifically about the strat that we're going to be showcasing in this video is we're using spells like Guidance, where it gives all the allies 20 extra accuracy. It gives an accuracy blade. We're also using Precisions, which you can get pretty easily, that give 25% accuracy to the person that you want to blade. So it could be on yourself, other players, as well as we're even using Lightning Strike. Yes, we had to pull out all the things from the arsenal, from the spell catalog. We pulled out Lightning Strike, which literally gives a plus 25 accuracy blade to the next storm spell. Very nice, and it's just to make it so you don't fizzle, because I feel like fizzling in this dungeon is kind of annoying. And yeah, it comes down to your build. You still have like a 2% chance or 5% chance. From my experience, bro, I was fizzling way too much than I thought I was, and I got very annoyed, and I was like, you know what, I'm just adding accuracy blades to all these strats. So that's where all the stats came from. Now, of course, with your own team members, you can definitely just go in, have somebody that's using Guidance and stuff like that. That's definitely doable. Guidance is easily able to obtain. You can just rock a pet. There's multiple pets that give guidance, but the one I would recommend is get a Mary Fairy. Mary Fairy's in the kiosk in Pet Pavilion, and what it does is it gives you 2 guidance cards. Of course, if you're a higher level, you can get like Wastelander gear and some other gear that gives you a guidance specifically like on the deck. Of course, there's even like a wand, I think, that gives it. So there's multiple sources. Of course, if you're a life, you can use it as well. Yeah, there's different variables. Also, post-editing Almond here, I forgot to include this in the video, but there is a small section I want to include, which is the deck setups that you'll be running. I've kind of got this recommended from some people in the Discord saying like, hey, maybe you should include deck setups for dungeons like this, and honestly they're right. So what person 1 is carrying is just whatever's shown on screen right now. It doesn't have to be a life wizard, it can be any school. Just remember your Pigsy has to be tier 2. Now, the way that you get the guidances, as I said probably like later in the video, is that you just run a pet called Mary Fairy. Now, of course, if you're life, you're going to be able to get guidance pretty simple. But if you aren't, you can just rock the Mary Fairy pet. It gives you 2 guidances. Oh, if you don't want to rock that, you can make your own build where you get guidances from like a deck or some pieces of gear. That is completely fine. As well as what you want to do is get a bunch of precisions and put that in your sideboard, because you are using those. You can just fill up your whole entire sideboard with precisions because you will be using them for the majority of all the fight. Person 2, you only need 4 cards. Your pips don't matter, your accuracy doesn't matter. So if you are a person 2, just prioritize health and res. Other than that, you don't really care about your pips, you don't care about your accuracy. All your spells are 100%. You just have to get them from different sources. Just remember though that your windstorm does, well, at least should be pet. If not, you can use treasure card windstorm. Mass hex you can get from the wand, or you can get from the amulet. Dark wind you can get from a amulet as well, or if not, you can rock a jewel. And then the blade storm you can just get from the Mushi robe, or you can get it from a different source of gear that you are running, but just the Mushi robe is like the easiest one to run. And then storm 1, this is your deck setup. Bare minimum you want to have a tier 2 shark and tier 2 lightning bats, which is shown on screen. These aren't max tier images, these are specifically tier 2. If you have way above, that's cool, but I tailored the strat towards people having like lower tier, because not everyone's gonna have max tier. And just get all the cards that are shown on screen, of course, and you should be good to go. And then storm 2, same thing. You do want to have tier 2 storm shark and lightning bats, and just have the correct amount of cards shown on screen. You do have to rock a wand that gives you a mass storm trap. I just recommend it, and I'll explain it later in the video why you're using mass storm trap, so just be wary of that. But this is just what I recommend for your deck setup. Nothing crazy. If you want to carry some extra sideboard stuff, by all means go for it, because you aren't carrying anything in your sideboard. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. Same thing as person 2, they can carry some extra stuff if they don't feel confident. Now let's get back into the rest of the stuff I was talking about. Let's get into the whole dungeon of Mount Olympus. Yes, so of course once you go in, you talk to Athena, you do some yippee yapping, and then you make your way to the first boss fight, which is Apoyo Brighton. Now he does have some cheats. Now the only cheat that you would really even need to worry about is if you do place a trap on him, he cheat casts a blade on himself. So he doesn't remove the traps or anything like that. He just, if you put a trap, he's going to blade himself. So if you want to use traps in this fight, by all means, go for it. When it comes to the mobs that are in the fight, the Cyclops mobs, they do have Minotaur in their deck. So be wary, you don't want to prolong the fight too much and take too much damage if you aren't using somebody with heals. Just because those Minotaurs, okay, do a good amount of damage if you don't realize it. But of course, it takes them a little bit of time to build up their pips anyway, so they won't Minotaur you till like possibly round 3 or maybe even round 4. But what we did in this fight is the first 2 people can be whatever school, so you can bring a balance, you can bring, a death, anything. The first 2 can literally be any school. And what we're doing is we're using precision on the first person so they can use it on themselves, so they do not fizzle their Pigsy. Yes, you can fizzle your Pigsy, so using precision just kind of evades that. As well as, depending on your school, your accuracy for life is not the best. So for that reason, we have to precision ourselves. And then person 2 is just using a blade storm to buff up the other 2 hitters. In our case, it was storms, but as I stated, and I'm verbally saying this because I do get comments quite often saying like, hey, can you make strats for fire? I just verbally say what you can do. If I really have the time, I will make completely different strats for every school. It's just I don't have the time to do that, so I'd rather just verbally express it. But yeah, for this strat, we're having 2 storms, so that's why the blade storm is useful. You can still have 2 other hitters of your choice. And then the following round, we are using Pigsy. Of course, Path B Pigsy, what it does is it puts 2 hots on all allies, as well as it gives you small burst heal, nothing crazy. And then after that, we're doing the bubble, and we're using lightning strike, so we do not fizzle our hit on the last person, and using Storm Shark. Path B Storm Shark does a lot of damage. It's something that just really should be notable. With the whole update, we did get changes to hots and dots, and Storm Shark was following in that category, where it does a lot of damage if you gambit a hot. It's like equal to like a Zilla, I would say. So it's very good. And realistically, 2 buffs, a Storm Bubble and a Blade Storm, kill Apoyo Brighton. Of course, this is assuming you hit damage cap and pierce cap. Very easy to do. You really only need to worry about your damage cap, your pierce cap, as well as your pips, because the fact is you're always going to have accuracy blades on you in all these fights, so you don't have to worry about fizzling that often. So you could just prioritize pips. You can always prioritize health as well. So a couple different options for when it comes to your build. But then after that, it's just a little bit of guidance spam, mass hex for the mobs, just because it's very useful. And since we did have to use blade storm round 1, of course theoretically you can use mass hex round 1, he just will blade himself, but just for the ease of access of less animations, we just did blade storm. And then after that, you just storm shark one of the following minions. You want to do it on the 3rd one specifically for the first storm, due to the fact is you will take all the aggro. So once Storm 2 kills the boss, he will have aggro of all 3 mobs. And if you do have all the aggro, you can theoretically get hit with 3 Minotaurs, which has happened to me before. So for that specific reason is we're having Storm 1 kill the last mob, so then Storm 2 can target a different mob. A very straightforward strat. And then obviously on the falling ground, there's only 1 mob left, so you can just Storm Shark that one as well. And if you want to, if you don't feel that confident with Storm Shark killing, just have like a wand hit or something like that. And that's it. That's realistically a Poyo Bright one. Nothing crazy to really talk about in that fight. Now we move on to the Crescent Moon Centaur. After you do your interaction with Athena, you have to fight the Moon Centaur. Same gimmick that you're going to be doing in this fight. We are using precisions, we are using mass X, but we're also including a mass storm trap. And then after that, storm sharking the boss, make sure there's path B. Of course, all these storm sharks and path A bats are all calculated based upon if you have tier 2. So you do need at least tier 2 lightning bats and at least tier 2 storm shark. Very easy to obtain. Just grind out your arc-based elements. And of course, we are using Windstorm to do a little bit more damage, or buff up our damage hits, of course, and then just doing more Storm Sharks and Bats. Of course, there is a chance of you fail pipping, so you can use Lightning Bats. If you don't, then just use Storm Shark. It's just because the fact is Storm Shark is a little bit more ease of access due to the fact is you will be having HOTS on you. It just makes it so Storm Shark just always guarantee kills. You don't have to worry about it. The Bats would kill theoretically as well, but it's just I enjoy using my Storm Shark way more. But that's really it for Crescent Moon Centaur. Nothing crazy notable cheat wise. You can just do this and you'll be fine. So yeah, if you have a team, just spam hits and you'll be good. The next fight we can move on to is the Praetorian Guard. Now he is a tad bit annoying, nothing crazy. He doesn't have any cheats, right? Anything that you guys should worry about. But it's just the only thing is he has Wild Bolt in his deck, which is kind of annoying because round 1 he can cast Wild Bolt and it has a chance of doing 1,000 damage. So be wary. So hopefully you have health going into this fight, because if on round 1 he does attack before, of course he will always attack before, but if he does use a Wild Bolt and it procs on the first person and they don't have that much health because they didn't refill on wisps and stuff like that, like didn't interact with those things, yeah, you can literally just die round 1. So be a little bit wary for the Praetorian Guard, and we're just trying to kill the Praetorian Guard ASAP. So that's what we're doing in this strat. And instead of using Pigsy in this fight, we're just using precision on the last person so they don't fizzle their bats. Now, of course, if you have a person that is a Storm 2 and they have a max tier lightning bats, because it will be 80% accuracy, you do not need that precision. Instead, you can just Pigsy right there if you wanted to. Just to get some extra healing, that's an option as well. But the precision is only there for the people who only have tier 2 lightning bats, because you still have a chance of fizzling. And we do have to include that wand hit just to do some extra damage till the bats can kill. Just remember, the bats and the storm sharks are bare minimum tier 2, so that's something you have to be wary about. And then after that, we're just using guidances so you don't fizzle your bats or your storm sharks. And then we're doing it in a mass hex. A bubble and a mass hex kills all the majority of the mobs. So we are using lightning bats and we are using storm sharks. Just remember, as I said, these spells are tier 2. And just make sure you're killing these mobs in order, because remember, aggro based mobs, so we're trying to evade that and we're targeting specific ones. So be wary. And that's really it, and that's the Praetorian Guard fight. Now after you do all that, you do talk to Athena, and then you make your way down to like the lower level area, and you have the little puzzle that you can do. Now the puzzle I do recommend doing, just because once they fix the drop rates, at the time I'm recording this isn't fixed, but it will be fixed in a future patch, which is that you can fail this puzzle. Now if you don't want to do if you don't want to fail the puzzle, just remember, if you're fighting the Minotaur, pick the elephant chess piece. That's what I call them. I call them chess pieces. And if you fight the serpent, make sure you pick Minotaur. And then if you have to fight the elephant, what you do is you pick the serpent. So literally just left, right, middle. But if you want to fail the puzzle to fight the elephant warrior, because he will drop a fire scale Turion pet, and these pets are kind of sought after at the moment. Even I'm trying to get them, everyone's trying to get them, but it's just not working at the moment. So in the future update, or feature patch, I mean, it will be fixed and I will be farming this. But what we're doing is just failing specifically the third one. If you fail at the beginning, you'll have to fight all 3 mobs, which is a little bit more annoying. So we're just failing only the third one because the drops are locked behind him specifically. And what you just do is you just triple buff into a Storm Shark. Now, another option you can do is, if you want, you can have person 1 carry a Sprite, and you can use a Sprite on the last person and do a bubble as well as a precision, or like the Storm Blade, the Lightning Blade, and then you don't have to worry about fizzling your Storm Shark. Now, The reason why I just have it as triple blade and shark, just because I didn't want to include a sprite just because animation time. But if you do fizzle, you do have to go to a second round. So there's that. Just be wary when it comes to that. But I do recommend failing the puzzle just at the chance of the pet. But if you don't care about the pet and you just want to get to the challenge modes, just do the order like I said. You just do left, right, middle, and that basically makes the puzzle done. Now you can get the pet on standard as well. It's just there's a higher chance of getting it on challenge mode, as always. And then after you do that, you will have to go to the Hall of the Watchful Eye, which you fight some Cyclops guards. And these guys are very easy as well. The mob fights in the whole dungeon are not that hard. They don't require the most insane tech. You can just AoE spam, like I said earlier when I was talking about other schools. You can just AoE spam, buff AoE. Yeah, that's an option. But we're just doing storms in our scenario. But all we're doing is using guidance so you don't fizzle. We're using storm bubble to buff the storm sharks, and literally round 1 you always start off with 3 pips. You have a chance of having 4 pips, of course, if you get a power pip. But with the bubble, storm sharks just kill the elite Cyclops guards. So just have person 1 or the storm 1 attack the first minion, storm 2 attack the second minion, and then the following round what you could do is if you do get a power pip, just obviously guidance, mass hex, and then the lightning bats will just kill the remaining minions because it'll also be double buffed because the fact is there's also a mass hex on them. Now of course if you fail pip, it's not the end of the world. Just hit the following round with the bats and just pass. Very straightforward. After you fight the guards, you will have to talk to Hephaestus or Cam. I call him Cam, but he's realistically Hephaestus.
Seems like a skill issue to me.
Right. Just go talk to him, and then you have to go get the little bronze eagles that are located all over the map. I should have some background footage showing where all those are. They're very straightforward to grab. I would hope people remember how to do this puzzle, just because this, Mount Olympus has been out for so long. There's nothing different about this portion of the video. You just have to go grab all the bronze eagles and then just report back to Hephaestus, and then you're good to go. Right. It's a very straightforward thing. There's 4 different ones. One once you leave the hall of the Watchful Eye, one to the right, one in the far back by Athena, and then one in, I believe, Apoyo's room. So there you go. But footage in the background will kind of just tell you that. Then we move on to the second to last fight, which is Ares. Now, Ares does have his own little gimmicks. You do not want to put a trap on him because the fact is it counts as you targeting him directly, and he will just hit you with his natural attack, and that does a lot. It does like a K or something. So just don't trap him till he's dead. So realistically, what we're just doing is precision, of course, so you can, not fail your Pigsy. We're doing Blade Storm to buff the Storm 1 and the Storm 2, and then as well as Storm 1 is also putting a Storm Blade on Storm 2. The following round we just lightning strike so you don't fizzle the storm shark. Then the boss is dead. Then after that you're just doing mass traps like hex, windstorm, the guidance of course for the accuracy, and then just storm sharking each and individual minion respectively. Of course pay attention to what minion you are attacking because you do want to target them in that specific order, just so you guys can evade the aggro a little bit and Storm 2 doesn't get nuked. Other than that, Ares doesn't have anything crazy. Of course, if you do hit him directly and he lives, which you won't for this specific strat, he will essentially just target you back saying, you dare strike me directly, and then you'll get hit with another Ares natural attack. So don't trap him and do not basically hit him and not kill. So if you are doing this with other people and other schools, you can just be wary of that. What you could do, what I would recommend, is just buff stacking into a big AoE. That's an option. Or what you could do is just have one person target Ares and then the other person buff stack into an AoE that kills all 3 of the mobs. That is just a general idea of what I would do if I was running other schools, like maybe a myth or something, or like an ice or death. Just have one person specifically buff up into a hit for a single target hit on Ares, and then the other people can just buff stack the other person and go for like a 4-pip AoE depending on your school respectively. Other than that, it's a really straightforward fight. It's the same thing with the other fights. It's just blade stacking and doing little niche things here and there. And then of course we move on to the final fight, which is Zeus. Now Zeus had been annoying, not him specifically since he's dying on round 2, but if you keep him long enough in the fight, he can do a lot of damage if you're not paying attention. But my issue with Zeus is if you keep him long enough, he is going to use his natural attack, and that does a lot of damage, especially on person 1, because you want to make sure that you're pulling him in slot 1, so then the other players don't take aggro and do, they get a lot of damage taken. Other than Zeus himself, his minions kind of a tad bit annoying as well. That's why we're doing extra buffs, because they can shield themselves. Those shields are kind of annoying, so that's why we're doing extra windstorms and mass traps. So you do want a mass trap wand on Storm 2, and you can get that by using the Headmaster wand. You can get that by getting Wastelander, or I think it's Wastelander, or it's the other one from the rematches. So very easy, very good to obtain. I do recommend it. But other than that, it's a very straightforward thing. Other than just adding in an extra windstorm and a mass trap, you're just doing the same exact thing that you've been doing in every other boss fight, where you use Pigsy, you're using guidance so you don't fizzle, and we're also using lightning strike, so then the Storm 2 doesn't fizzle to kill Zeus with the Storm Shark. And then of course we're doing the same thing with the other mobs, which is just we're doing Storm Shark individually on one of another, where we just do Storm Shark on each and individual mob. Another thing to note is that Zeus does drop the Myth Praetorian pet, so if you are chasing that, I do recommend farming Zeus, whether it be on standard or challenge mode. Challenge mode does have boosted rates, of course, so you're more likely to get the pet, and it's something I do recommend, because I will talk about all the Praetorian pets in a feature vid. I just haven't had time. Other than that, if you're trying to do Zeus with other schools, just as you do with the Ares, just have someone single target Zeus. So of course, blade stack one person, kill Zeus, and then after that you can just AoE spam and kill the mobs respectively. It's a very easy thing to do. If you want to circumvent some damage taken on the players, of course you can have a person use Pigsy, you can have a person use Legion Shield if need be. There's other things that you can do. You can have a person shield, of course, to circumvent some damage. What I just recommend is just have one person specifically target Zeus, while everyone else either helps blade stack that one person, or what they could do is also spam AoEs in this fight. Overall, Mount Olympus isn't hard, it's just tedious with the amount of things you have to do, so there's that. Now of course, this is like what I would just do is a storm strat, of course, if you have the storms and stuff like that. But if you don't have the storms, just as I stated at the beginning of this video, as I always see in my comment section time to time, just what do I do from other schools? You can be those like you can literally be person 1 or person 2. But if you do not have any storm friends or anything like that, you don't have any other people, you can always join the Discord. There's always people in there wanting to do challenge mode stuff. If not, you can always just switch the strat, as I said, where you just spam AoEs in the majority of the fights. When it comes to a boss fight, you just have one person target a boss in any of the fights, whether it be Apoyo, Ares, the Moon Centaur, or even Zeus himself. You just have one specific person on duty to kill the boss, and then the other person just buff stack into an AoE. Pretty straightforward. You just need it to make it so you don't take as much damage. It's not too hard. Cam kind of explained to me how these challenge modes were intended, and it's just like an introduction to challenge mode in a way. So it's not going to have the most heavy cheats as people think it is, but seeing how this goes, who knows, we might have some other challenge modes to like old areas. You never know. But that's basically it. That's the whole guide on how to do Mount Olympus on challenge mode. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, or if not, let me know in the Discord. Plenty of people always ask me questions here and there in the Discord. If not, if I don't get around to answering it, there's always plenty of nice people in the Discord that do answer the questions for me, because sometimes I do get busy. Other than that, leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord, as I said, and hopefully we can get to 8,000 subscribers. I'm grinding as much as I can, but hopefully we can get to 8,000 subscribers. Hopefully by the end of August. You never know. But that's it, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.